Art is subjective, but objectively, I am better at drawing. So in order to make my pixel art game look some degree of presentable, I'm doing everything in my power to fake some sort of artistic competence. People often look at pixel art and think, that's easy. And I used to think that too. Bear in mind, I was stupid when I thought this. Now, I don't even think that it's fair to say that pixel art is the most simplistic art style. Sure, you have games like Minecraft, but then you have stuff like Hyper Light Drifter, and that game looks insane. I think that some of the reasons that a lot of indie developers are drawn to using pixel art is that the barrier to entry is lower. If you're seeing a PC in your life, you're probably drawn a stickman figure in paint. Obviously, a 32x32 sprite is more performant than an HD texture, so you can also make your game run on a toaster if you want. And due to the small sprite size, asset creation is much faster. That is if you choose to keep things simple, which I am. Please have a look at Skate King's character design. I've wanted to create a simple character that could also take on many dynamic poses. Keith Haring was a major inspiration for this design. The character is also a very good representation of the game's art style, or at least the rules I try and follow when creating new art assets. I'm not aiming to make the Skate King graphics a visual spectacle, I just want it to be neat and consistent. I didn't just choose to make the art style simple because I can't draw, but to complement the gameplay. You can go very fast in Skate King, so if the environment is too noisy, it can actually feel quite sickening as you blitz past it. The character can also pull off some quite sick moves, so having a simpler and more cartoony art style helps the player suspend their disbelief when your character bounces off a tire and backflips onto a rail grind. At this stage of development, I'm just creating assets to fill up all these play spaces so they feel distinct, unique, and interesting. Now, let's go into the real reason why this video is a month late. If you follow me on X or have simply paid attention to the footage used in the video so far, you will have seen that the grey backgrounds from the old videos are no longer. It is now replaced with a skybox, but not your traditional skybox since we're using a 2D render pipeline. This is a sky plane, and I created this through shader graph. Up to this point, my experience with shader graph is very limited, and I haven't touched high level shader language in like 4-5 years, so basically I had to learn everything I needed to create this from scratch. I couldn't find any specific tutorials on how to create this effect, so I had to find various documentation, tutorials, manuals, and forums, and kinda take what I needed from each one of those things and consolidate them into what I needed to create my specific effect. I'll link what I found most useful in the description. But long story short, this let me create my desired material, and I could place this on a plane that I put in the background of the scene, and with this material I could control the colors of the plane and then create this beautiful summer evening horizon. Additionally, I created a day-night cycle which I linked to the player's progression. So as the player got closer to their goal, the time progressed from late afternoon to dusk and finally night. And I think this adds a nice level of visual feedback, telling the player you're actually progressing on your journey. After figuring out how to use shader graph, I then went around creating all kinds of materials and effects like outlines for the bounceable objects. I hope that this extra layer of visual feedback makes it obvious to the player what they can and can't interact with. I still had to do some additional stuff to get the backgrounds rendered correctly though. The game up until now have been using an orthographic camera, which means that regardless of how far away something is, if it's within the camera's frustum, it is the same size as everything else inside it. Essentially, there's no perspective, which means that the sky plane wouldn't look right. Secret time. I also want to add 3D objects in the background to create a parallax effect, and these wouldn't look right either with the current camera. I couldn't just change our main camera to be using perspective as it would break a lot of things I had already set up in the game. And to keep things coherent, let's refer to the main camera as camera A from now on. Anyways, to solve this issue, I created a new perspective camera, which we're going to refer to as camera B. We childed camera B to camera A, then put everything we wanted camera B to render on its own layer. Then we took what camera B rendered and output it onto a texture, and after that we set up a camera space UI canvas and attached that to camera A. On that UI canvas we overlaid everything camera B saw, and voila, we got a parallax background, plus a pixelation effect as a bonus, because I compressed everything camera B output down by a lot, and now the background also fits this pixel art aesthetic. Lighting and good post-processing is almost like a cheat code to improve the presentation of your game, as long as you don't overdo it. People usually go crazy with the bloom effects. Unity has a solid 2D lighting system, and though I haven't gone through a full lighting path, what I currently have has already made the game a lot more visually interesting. And that's the current progress of the game in a nutshell. The game mechanics are done. The levels just is done, but needs a bit more tweaking and testing. The visuals and audios are currently the big focus in order to make the game just stand out and pop out a little bit. Man, I cannot wait until I'm done with this and I can move on to something else, because I do love this game and I think it's really interesting, but I have some other ideas as well.